Here we are with Mr. Vigorate, Mr. UFC, Mr. MMA, Matt Bailey. How we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks yourself.
Yeah, all good, fella. How you surviving quarantine?
Do you know what? The first couple of weeks, I thought it's not going to be too bad, but I'll be honest, it's taking its toll on me now.
I was gonna say, 'cause you're used to jet setting, like you're sort of here, there, and everywhere, every UFC show and all the rest of it.
I know. It's like, just even without just the travelling, just being like, I can get on without that. It's just with everything being shut. Do you know what I mean? It's just, there's only so much Netflix you can watch, I guess. And MMA reruns and that.
That's it. Fight Pass can only have so many fights on it.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about your journey in general. Then, like, how did you get into MMA in the first place?
So, do you know what? So, I think we're talking back to 2010-ish. So, I was always into boxing. That's where it started for me. So, I'm from Nottingham. We've got Carl Froch. So, I followed Carl Froch's journey, went to a few of his fights. I always knew MMA was there, but I was into boxing. And then it was actually, so where I used to work, a couple of people were into UFC and they're into, like, they follow like Dan Hardy and Paul Daly because they're from Nottingham as well. So I'd just seen a couple of their fights just when I was at work doing night shifts, etc. So I always knew it was there. And then I kind of fell out with boxing a bit, just fed up with like the right matches not getting made, all the politics, too many belts, etc. So just delved more into MMA from there, really.
So, you've been to almost every UFC event I've seen in a recent time. How did that start coming about? Is it like a routine thing? What's this? Is this
So what it was is I always wanted to go to like a UFC event, MMA event, but it was never popular with my friends. None of them were into it. So it was only something I watched. I didn't know anyone to go with. And do you know what? At first, I just didn't want to just do it and go on my own. So I never went for ages. And then one of my friends who was also into boxing finally fell out with boxing and turned to MMA as well. And then it was just like, should we just go to an event? So we just said, yeah. So we went to Vegas for a first event. I think this was 2015 maybe. And we just finally decided to go to an event, went to an event with him and just caught the bug from there, really. It's just like so much better than boxing. I literally went to one event, then did another, and before you know, I've done all these events now.
I was going to say, because you've been to, like, was it Madison Square Garden? You've been to all these sort of big shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Who's your favourite person you've met? Obviously, you don't want to burn any bridges, but first that comes to mind for argument's sake.
As in fighter-wise?
Yeah, biggest fanboy moment.
Do you know what? Meeting Tony Ferguson was pretty cool.
What a statement that is.
Yeah. He's just like, and even when I had a photo with him, he did some really like awesome weird pose, like it was proper Tony Ferguson. Who else? Do you know what? There's loads, like Justin Gaethje, like.
The who's who, really, isn't it?
I'm trying to think. So there was someone who was like Israel Adesanya was one of the soundest people I've ever met, as well, and so we met him in Vegas in July. And we like just got drinking with him in the Palms, had like a good drinking with him, and then last year I seen him again in at UFC 244 at MSG, and he recognised us straight away and remembered us and asked how we were doing and everything. It was just like crazy.
That is so good to hear. These sort of like, you know,
he's
people
proper,
are actually like actually nice people.
Yeah, do you know what, I'm trying to think. I can't really name one time any like fighter who's not been like appreciative or, do you know what I mean? They're all awesome to me. There's not been like one bad experience.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want, really, because you got to appreciate these are still people, and the fact they've still kept that root of being, you know, nice people is just so underappreciated.
Well, exactly that, and especially like during fight week, you know, with weight cutting and that, you know, it's hard enough for them. Never mind having to like take a load of photos, meet people and that. But do you know what? They're just that's why I love the sport, because the fans are so involved. whereas other sports maybe not.
But yeah, that's it as well. Because like, if you play football and watch football, you haven't got anywhere near the same amount of respect as a fighter does for another fighter. Obviously,
Yeah,
there's levels and
exactly.
stuff to all of it, but in the same breath, like, you know what's gone into that. So talk us through
Yeah.
your MMA journey, because have you competed a few times, haven't you?
So I was training. So I started off doing jiu-jitsu, and so I'm in the military, so I moved around a bit. So every time I got settled, like training at one gym, I had to like move around and that. But I did quite a lot of training at Phoenix MMA. So that's where I've done most of my training. So I was doing jiu-jitsu there. I was actually going to do. So Jimmy Johnson, who runs Phoenix MMA, he has his runs his own promotion for like amateur fights. So he matched us all up at the gym to have amateur fights. But so that was in the running, but unfortunately the date moved. So it moved like further on. And due to me with work commitments and that, I couldn't make the new date. So I couldn't do that. And then I completely moved away from where Phoenix MMA is. But I did, so they did like a no-gi grappling tournament called Super 5. And it was based on like the rules of quintet. So we did that. So I competed in that. But that's it really. But it's something I'm looking to start getting back into, jiu-jitsu. But I'm always on the move with work, which doesn't make it easy.
Well, that is again quite tricky. On the previous podcast, I had Martin Stapleton. He talked about a similar issue he had. I was training with the Marines and like traveling all over the place. It's especially when it comes to competing, it's learning where your home is to where you can build this whole base from. It must be so like tricky and stuff. So how long have you been in the military for?
So it'll be 8 years in July. So just shy of 8 years at the minute.
How are you finding all that then? So like, the training wise and the sort of lifestyle. Obviously, I appreciate some of it's like quite sensitive information, but just moving around.
So when I first went, did basic training and that. Do you know what? I'd never really done anything like it, so it was kind of a little bit of a shock, just doing some of the things. But do you know what? I look back and think I'm so better off with it, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just doing everything, like joining the military, everything I've done with them has just molded me to who I am today.
Well, this is it as well. I mean, because if you've been that long, you can't be that bad.
No, I've had some great, like, we've been like, so just to give people a bit more information. So I'm in the Navy. My job, I'm an aircraft engineer, so I work on, so I fix and maintain helicopters. I've recently moved now and I'm working with the RAF. So I'm based in Norfolk at the minute, which isn't too far from home, so that's good. But I've literally been all over with the military. I spent most of my career down in Somerset and Yeovil, and then in Portsmouth. We've literally been all over. So I've been to Norway when it's like minus 30 degrees. It's freezing. I've been to Arizona where it's like 40 degrees. Been to Germany. I've literally we've been all over with the Navy, so it's been great.
That's really refreshing to hear as well, getting that. Actually, I mean, as much as like minus 30 isn't always ideal. Always different experiences and different, the variety as well, if nothing else. So there's a few things I wanted to just ask you about. So what is MMA Gangster? I see you're up in the T quite a lot.
Yeah. So a little shout out here. So MMA Gangster. So a good friend of mine that I go to the UFC events with. And it's funny enough because all the people that I go to MMA events with, we've all met from going to fights. So we've got like a group of us, but we've all met from just going to fights. So like some of my best mates like now have all met through fighting. Such as like Neil, who runs Vigor 8, met him from going to fights. I've made all these friends just from going to the fights. So MMA Gangster came about. I think it was UFC 223. It was what was meant to be Khabib versus Ferguson, that then turned into Khabib Holloway, that then ended up being Khabib versus Alaquinta. So it was that card. So me and my friend AJ and our Welsh friend David, we all sat in the hotel when everything had kicked off with Conor McGregor and the dolly and all that, and the whole card had like fallen to pieces. And then we were just talking, and then we heard like so many people wanted to take the Khabib fight, and then we heard Alaquinta was taking the Khabib fight, and AJ just turned around and went, "That's proper gangster, that." And then he just thought everyone saying, "This guy's a gangster, these guys are gangster," and he was like looking around, seeing everyone in these like fighter T-shirts and stuff, and just thought that he could do a better job designing them. So we said to improve it. So he put his money where his mouth is and created MMA Gangster.
Well, this is it. I like the design. I like the sort of brand as well. So I was sort of curious to the origin. Is that like Vigorette as well? Now you've said like, obviously you've like met Neil and stuff, and Neil, shout out to Neil because he's been nothing but supportive to me and a lot of other like amateur fighters.
Oh, Neil's awesome.
A lot of time for that because I think it was Mason Jones or who was it? A lot of clangs, a lot of name dropping in this podcast. Talking about how when you get to the higher levels, that's where you get a lot of support and a lot of like, you know, the funding and stuff. But those aren't the people who need it.
Yeah, no, it's true. The people that are trying to make it need it because they need, like, I don't think people realise that all these people coming up have got, like you said, got no support and they're really struggling. Like, and there's no like funding for people trying to make it, if you know what I mean, as such.
I think that's the difference between a sort of sponsor and an advert because if you have like an advert on like a TV and stuff, it's got much weight to that as most sort of quote unquote like sponsors do like in the day and age. But to have someone like Vigorette or someone like that who really wants to help you build, wants to help you like be supportive, that's the biggest difference between just getting their brand out and also like, you know, helping you grow.
Exactly.
Shout out Vigorette.
Yeah.
So talk to me, the Dana White Fight Island May card. What's your thoughts of this whole situation? Do you reckon it's going to go through?
So do you know what? This Fight Island, it's mind blowing. But I think Dana, like, whether people want to see the fights or not, or against it or not, you have to you just have to give hats off to Dana for even getting anything possible. So like, if this Fight Island pulls through, which he's saying it's being built now, it would just be so good because it's just something out of a movie, isn't it? It's so different. Just think of how many people are going to watch it just because they want to see the island. Do you know what I mean? It's going to get he's going to get a lot of eyes on the sport.
Just trying to outdo Graham Boylan. He moved the show from London to Manchester on a couple of days' notice. Dana White built a new island altogether.
It's just very Dana White though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? He doesn't he doesn't like things to stop him.
Oh, 100%. So, obviously, you being friends with every single fighter on the roster, you can't necessarily give all your opinions and stuff. But let's talk through the card. I want to hear some of your predictions. So, just a quick one to everyone listening. Apologies for butchering some of the names. I, accept that. And that's the end of that conversation. So, we'll start with Cruz and Cejudo.
Ooh. Do you know what? A lot of people are annoyed that Cruz is getting a shot. But here's just sorry to like go away from it a bit, but I've seen a lot of people online like moaning about Cruz getting a shot. But if you think about it, there's no one else really at the minute because of all the travel restrictions. Yeah, I agree that Peter Yan should be getting a title shot, but he can't travel. Aljamain Sterling's had, I believe his girlfriend had coronavirus and he's still injured, so I don't think he's 100% fit to fight, otherwise it'd be him. So when you look down the list and you see the people that can't make it or can't fit, I have no problem with Cruz getting a title shot at this point. And
the whole argument about being active versus like your eligibility to get this title shot, you appreciate how long Cruz was a champion for as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way he lost it wasn't exactly like he got, outclassed or anything. Cody Garbrandt figured out a way to beat him and went over 5 rounds strategically, and that was that. He didn't embarrass him or anything, and he still was that undefeated, terror of the whole bantamweight division. So I've had no objection to seeing that personally. But people are always going to argue for their up-and-coming current fighters, the ones who are like in the spotlight. But credit where credit's due, in my personal opinion. Yeah, that's it. I think he deserves a shot, and I'm happy he's getting a chance. It'd be good to see him back. Now, This is where the whole butchering caveat comes from. Are you ready? Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Oh, close enough.
That wasn't bad. Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Yeah.
I can live with that. Go on.
Oh, man. I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. I can't see this going a distance, but we've said that before with heavyweight fights, and they've turned into the biggest. Like Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou I think there was about 10 punches thrown over 3 rounds. But I'm going to go with Ngannou because although Rozenstruik beat Overeem, he looked good. He was actually getting beat by Overeem, and it was only until like the last 10 seconds that he landed the knockout. And I think Ngannou's he wants that title shot now. He's really determined. He wants the title shot again. He's going to go out. I think he's just going to. Yeah, he's going to get the knockout in Ngannou, I'd say, within the first couple of rounds.
Well, this is where it gets quite interesting with Ngannou as well, because the thing is, when it came to the Stipe fight, we got figured out with the whole wrestling situation, you could tell that he came back even stronger from that to, not get discouraged, because when you're on that sort of one-punch KO tear, everyone's scared of you, to then get, just outclassed for 3 rounds, it's a really humbling experience. So for him to then, take that in his stride and, keep going, if anything, it might give him a bit more of urgency, even though being a one-punch, knockout person is urgency, but more of a,
Well, this is it, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is, I think, one of my favourite fights on the card, if not my favourite. I'm going to say it's quite a few times, but this is the one that I'm going to give a lot more weight to. Cowboy Pettis at welterweight.
I watched the first one the other day, actually. Do you know what? It's such a, for me, it's really hard to call. Like, for me, it's a bit of like a coin flip. Like, it literally could go anyway. Because we've seen Cowboy at welterweight is like, in my opinion, better than he is in lightweight. Like, when he first moved to welterweight, he went on that absolute tear. And obviously, it's a happier Cowboy when he's not having to think about cutting down to 155. But then Pettis is just a machine as well, and we've seen what he did to Thompson at welterweight. I literally couldn't call it, but if I had to go with anyone, if I had to pick someone, I'd edge towards Pettis.
See, I'd say Pettis as well. And before we carry on with this point, the real reason I love this fight is it's lightweights fighting at welterweight. They are that natural kind of weight, and then they're just saying, you know what, let's not cut. And that is kind of ideal. Like with the whole Cowboy and McGregor fight, for example, same sort of situation. Because the whole thing with weight cutting is being at disadvantage for someone else being much naturally bigger, much naturally stronger. Whereas if you are naturally the same kind of build, same kind of frame, obviously everyone's going to be different, but within reason, it's a more even sort of fight. So this is like if everyone in the UFC moved up the weight division. And ideal. But yeah, Pettis, if you take into account obviously his knockout power at welterweight off Thompson as well, and the thing with Cowboy, it's as much I don't know, I can't work him out.
He's just inconsistent, isn't he?
Yeah, he won't show up on the big events, but he's not going to ride off in the sunset just yet. I can't help but feel he had so many opportunities to do that, but he loves it too much. I feel.
Yeah, he'll be around for a bit longer. Like, he ain't going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think.
100%. So yeah, I'm saying Pettis on that one as well. This is a really good fight as well. It'll be Jeremy Stephens against Calvin Kattar.
Unreal fight, so good. Do you know what? Calvin Kattar, he fought Zabit, didn't he? But it was only for 3 rounds. And I feel that he was Kattar was getting going. And if it was 5 rounds, I really think he would have done the job and won. But, both of these are just going to bring it as well. And Jeremy Stephens has knockout power, which we've seen in the past. So, this is these fights are so close to call for me. If I had to pick, I'm going to probably edge towards Jeremy Stephens.
Well, this is where I'm in a similar boat with that as well. Because much as you got, I don't know, it's fun. It's so tricky to call with these things. Like, especially in the nature of MMA, it can go anywhere at any given time. I've always been a bit of a Jeremy Stevens fan, even with Gregor saying, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah,
I've always liked him. Okay. Greg Hardy, Jorgen De Castro.
And this isn't because I don't like Greg Hardy at all. Like I don't mind him, but I think De Castro is going to get the win here. Even though, credit where it's due, even though he lost, Greg Hardy did really well against Volkov.
Well, that's it. Controversy aside, it'd be an interesting fight all the same. I still reckon De Castro's got this.
Yeah.
Moving on swiftly before we
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll go back to the prelims because for some reason Cowboy Pettis is on that, but that's another conversation.
That's marketing, though, isn't it? They want to, we know it doesn't belong in the prelims, but it's all marketing, isn't it? They put the fight like that on the prelims, so everyone sees it and then thinks, "Oh, that was unreal. I want to buy the pay-per-view."
It makes sense because what does it even mean being on the main card and the prelims to an actual
Exactly. They're still you don't get any unless you're the main event. You're getting what you'd normally get anyway, no matter where you are on the card.
Okay, so we've got Carla Esparza and Michelle Karate Hardy Watterson. I can't say Karate Hardy Watterson. Your mate as well. You've met her, haven't you?
Yeah, I've met Michelle Watterson. That was this year actually in Albuquerque. So we went out for me, AJ, Neil, and a few of us. We went out to Albuquerque for Nathaniel Wood's fight against John Dodson. And sorry, this is going a bit on a tangent.
No, go for it. Yeah.
So we went out there, and so me and AJ and Neil were all sat down for breakfast. I think it might have been the Thursday morning or the Wednesday, Thursday morning, and we were all sat there, and we were just. So AJ actually was wearing one of his MMA Gangster t-shirts, and so this guy started asking AJ about his t-shirt, and it was the guy's name was Chad, and he was with Devin Clark, who's light heavyweight in the UFC. So Chad's a wrestling coach at Jackson Winks, and Devin trains there, and we just got talking to them. And then he mentioned he was at Jackson Winks and all this, and we were like, "Oh, we're hoping to come and check out the gym while we're in Albuquerque." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." He says, "Well, I'm taking Devin to go do a workout later today, so I'll meet you outside the front of the hotel and I'll drive you down." So the wrestling coach Chad from Jackson Wink, he took me, AJ and Neil down to Jackson Wings and showed us all around the gym and let us watch Devin work out. And Holly Holm was there training in a gi. It was Aaron Pico was there. It was crazy.
I don't know where to begin with that story. all the name drops, all the Holly Holm in a gi. That's a statement in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
She was training in a gi in the corner. Aaron Pico was there. Brandon Gibson was running the class. Honestly, Aaron Pico came over to us to have a chat and this is literally what he said. He said, "Oh, nice to meet you. Cheers for coming by, etc., etc." And then he says, "I'm only in town till Saturday, but if there's anything you need until then just let me know." Just do you know what I mean? We'd only been speaking to him for a minute, and he'd already said stuff like that, and just everyone at that gym was so accommodating. We spoke to Greg Jackson, that's it. Yeah. Greg Jackson came and said it. Anytime you want to come to the gym, we're always welcome. Everyone was just so accommodating. It was crazy.
I mean, again, it's just so refreshing hearing these these people we idolize and stuff being so genuine and down to earth. Modestus was saying on the podcast we did, shameless plug, that when he trained over there, everyone was so friendly, and even John Jones as well. That's someone that kind of a prominent figure in MMA and the UFC was just so welcoming and so friendly.
Yeah, the setup they've got at Jackson Wink is awesome as well. Me, Neil, and AJ, we all blew away. When we first walked in there and we seen it, and we're like, "Wow, this facility is unreal." It was just so good.
Again, for anyone listening at the minute, we are purposely leaving out the the elephant in the room on the UFC card just for get there in a bit.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working our way down. So we've got Jacare and Uriah Hall.
That's a great fight.
Oh, I love it so much. I can't ever stop thinking about it. Every time I have nightmares, is Uriah Hall's knockout in the Tough House. Oh my God.
The spinning, unreal.
Horrible. The worst part about that knockout is there's no one in the thing to really cheer or anything. It's just dead silent.
Yeah.
Like someone's died. Oh God.
I loved watching the fights in like the Contender Series and Tough and that, where there's a limited crowd though. Which is what we're going to get for 249. But
did you get a chance to watch the most recent Cage Warriors, the Manchester card, behind closed doors?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was Darren Stewart in the main event.
Yeah. It was quite an interesting one actually. I kind of liked it without the crowd. They sort of just got on with it as such. There was no pressure to play for them as such, because you get like bigger name guys like Paddy Pimblett, all those sort of people. There's a lot of energy when they walk in. They're sort of cheering people on and all this kind of stuff. And you can't help but feel some way that they might be influenced by the crowd to try and live up to a certain standard, whereas they get more genuine performance without a crowd.
Yeah, I do agree, because there's no one there like booing or egging you on, or do you know what I mean? Yeah, like you said, you can literally just concentrate on your game plan and all that. There's no like disturbances outside the cage.
Okay, so there's a few more fights on this, but there's I can't leave it anymore. Ferguson, Gaethje.
Oh, do you know what? I'm gutted that we ain't getting Khabib Ferguson, because I so need to see that fight. But I'm also starting to come to the terms now that we're never going to see it. I think I've just got to let it go.
How dare you say that?
My thinking is, I think we're never going to get it, and then all of a sudden it's just going to come like that, and it's going to happen. So I'm going to personally let go of it and say we're never going to get it. Obviously, I'm hoping that we get it.
Just cut your losses.
So obviously I'm good we lost that fight, but then if there is anyone to replace and make the fight, like Gaethje's like the perfect person, like. So obviously this fight's unreal. Obviously I'd like to see Khabib versus Ferguson, but I'm more than happy with watching this, and it's just so intriguing. There's so many ways it can go. Like with Tony Ferguson, like pretty much most of his fights he's been dropped, but he always comes like he just loves it, doesn't he? It just gets him going and honestly, like Tony Ferguson's like probably one of the best lightweights and is more than capable of getting the win. But then just engage his power and just like in his last 3 fights, he's changed so much and just it's so hard to call. And Tony Ferguson is one of my favourite fighters, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a just engage KO.
I mean, the thing is, what he says is that is calculated chaos, because he always tells people that, oh no, he's not a crazy fighter and all this kind of stuff. It's all, he knows what he's doing. So, as much if that is the case, it'll be a really interesting style, especially because of the sort of unpredictability of Ferguson. And as anyone's seen from his Instagram as well, it's just, it's unique. So you get 2 unpredictable, like Tasmanian Devils in the same kind of cage. We'll see what happens with that. It'd be so interesting. I'll tell you what would be really good to see. With like a 4-man tournament, like, okay, let's get this lightweight 4-man tournament. So we got Ferguson, we got Khabib, Gaethje. Who's your 4th man who's sticking there in the lightweight division?
I'm just gonna have to throw him in there because he's the big name, but I'd go for Conor.
I
know it's boring. I know.
McNugget, okay.
But just because, like,
you got it, really, haven't you?
But do you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing Charles Oliveira in there if I had to pick someone other than Conor, because he's like his tear's been kind of under the radar, but he's been on an absolute tear, and especially that win over
Kevin Lee.
The trouble is, he's just not a big name outside of the sport, if you know what I mean. That's the trouble sometimes.
Well, this is the real issue with the MMA world at the minute, is that need for that like persona outside of it. Because obviously, like, it is a business at the end of the day. They've got to sell tickets. They've got to be a product. Like, there's a reason McGregor is, that the face of the UFC, and everyone wants to, knows it as him, but as the UFC by extension of Conor McGregor. And it's a frustrating sort of reality that you have to invest time in that side of things, when ideally in a martial arts based thing, you'd practice purely in the martial arts and the training side of this. And it just undervalues things, because if you can get, I don't know, I said this the other day, was it the most skilled person but couldn't sell a ticket, you'd stick them on the prelims. And it's just, if you could even get on the card in the first place. I mean, what world is that? What kind of MMA
it's crazy,
kind of
isn't it?
integrity is that? But they've got to sell tickets. They've got to, you know.
This is it, yeah. It's like bums in seats, do you know what I mean? The tickets and pay-per-views is what the company runs on. So they need to sell them. But I also think that like it's UFC's responsibility to build these stars as well.
It definitely works both ways, because you know they can only do so much, but they've got to get their voice out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but like just look at Ben Askren. Like people were just saying, "Oh yeah, he came to the UFC and it was a bit of a fail," but it really wasn't, because think how many people he came and he got a controversial win over Lawler, and then the next two didn't go his way, but just think how refreshing he was for the UFC and how many more people he got in. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it really worked, even though he lost and that. But just think how, like, he was just very marketable. He had a good personality. He had this, like, feud he had with Dana in the past, and just everything just worked out really well for him.
Well, that's what gave me a lot more respect for Dana, in that he put his differences aside with Askren for the better of, like, you know, the fans and everything else. He gave a bit more of, like, maturity to the situation, because, you know, if he's got his own beef, it's his company, he can throw his toys out if he wants and not have him. But to then put that aside and be like, okay, it's be good to see this kind of, I think it also gave like highlight to Ben Askren's career as well, because that spotlight, because like if you hear the old Joe Rogans with like Brendan Schaub as well, they're talking about him saying, oh, he needs to get in the UFC, like ONE FC absolutely murdering everyone. And I don't want it to be the same kind of tub with the same pride brush of that, oh, it might not be as legit, it might not be the same kind of thing. Because, you know, Fedor got a bit of that, and so did, who else got a bit of that? Oh, Krokop. Like, those kind of things of, oh, if they end up, you know, falling on their arse like in more recent times, that shouldn't undermine their career before that. It shouldn't caveat that.
Yeah, exactly. They've already done what they've done.
Now, that would be an interesting fight again. Even still, would be I know there's different weights slightly. It would be Askren and Khabib, because that's what the initial argument always has been. That,
because Askren wanted 165, didn't he? Said 165 belt, me versus Khabib.
Now, this is a couple of interesting points we're going on to this now. Will be weight divisions and the belt system. So the belt. I think the belt would be a bit quicker conversation. I think so. Obviously, there's a thing about gold belts for the champions and potentially silver for the interim champs. What's your opinion initially on that?
Yeah, I think that's a good enough idea. Do you know what though? Just interim belts in general, like all it basically is it's like a glorified number one contenders belt, isn't it? It just basically means you are next to fight for the. I think the UFC just what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it just lost a bit of its shine. The belt did, because they were just chucking them out left, right, and centre at one point. Interim belts, weren't they? Because like people were faded, like just for pay-per-views, just so they could sell. So it lost a bit of like what they're worth, but. I see the need for interim belts. We definitely need them, but I just think they're just basically it's just like a number one contenders spot. But I think having them silver is a good idea.
Yeah, I think it highlights the difference, because then you've got a bit more weight to when it is the big main event. Yeah. Because on face value, if you see the belt around the waist, you don't know what it is, and you know it's a bit of a
and that's why they do interim belts as well, so they can have more so-called like champion versus champion fights. Do you know what I mean? So obviously there's a need for him because champions are injured, and you know, if the champion doesn't come back, then the interim belt will go to the champion belt. But Gagey said it perfectly. He says the interim belt he's fighting for against Ferguson, he can, like, it's not the belt to him, it's just a paved way to the belt. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a path to a guaranteed belt. But And this says it all. Tony Ferguson never actually lost his interim belt, but he's fighting for another interim belt.
This just gets so confusing. It's like, was it Robert Whittaker who got the champion without beating the champion, or whatever it was, or something like that?
Yeah, so he fought Yoel Romero at 213, I believe it was, the first time, and he won the interim belt, and then became the champion. Was due to defend it, but then was injured. So you had the champion that was out injured. Yeah, so they had to then create another interim belt.
And that's sort of the way it started getting really silly with everything else.
Yeah.
Now, that brings me on to another sort of subject on this, is Yoel Romero. How is that man still alive? How's that man still going at the rate he's going?
I don't know, but he sued that supplement company, didn't he? I think it was like 27 million he got. Did you hear about that?
I completely forgot about that.
I want to know if he's seen any of that money. Because I don't know if the company had that money to give, or so I looked into it, and I might like not get the facts 100% right here, but so I think the state that it all happened in and it got took to court, etc., is in New Jersey, and they basically have some ruling whereas the payout gets tripled. So it was something like 9 million or something they were actually said they had to pay, but because of this law or ruling, it got tripled to 27. So that's why it ended up being so much. I think it was around 27 mil or something.
Oh, I mean, imagine that.
And yeah, but how that guy can sue a company like that is beyond me, because just look at him.
Who would be your dream opponent for Romero? Regardless of division or
dream opponent for Romero.
I'm thinking maybe McDonald or someone like that would be really good. Someone a bit more, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, because if you get like Adesanya kind of striker versus wrestler, quote unquote, you get, what happened.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get someone a bit more, I don't know, well-rounded in the sense of, I'm not saying somebody's not well-rounded, but a bit more known for being more well-rounded.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Because someone like GSP would be a bit like, would be an interesting one as well.
Yeah.
But again, we'll do middleweight instead, because I'd love to see Darren Till against him. It'd be so fun. I'd love to see the press conferences. That's the fight
I need to see. Oh. And I think Darren's done it brilliant. Like, he's created this image that he's scared of Yoel and that, but really, he really wants that Yoel fight, and it's a good way to get it. Do you know what I mean? It's good, like, marketing and good way to build it up, saying I'll fight anyone apart from Yoel and that, but yeah.
For anyone who's bored in quarantine, go on Darren Till's Instagram and have a scroll. You won't regret it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and Twitter as well.
Oh, he's incredible. Yeah, have you seen the Robert Whittaker interview on ESPN?
Yeah,
Chip and dip.
Basically, he said they want to just chip and dip for like a couple of months and then just go to Fight Island and slug it out.
Oh, that's the truth. That's the thing with. I think that's why everyone likes Till so much. It's just because if he's so genuine and so
Yeah, he just says it how it is. There's no holding back. If he'll say what he wants, you know what I mean? And yeah.
Now, an interesting conversation would be a Woodley rematch.
Yeah.
Because obviously the way he took it, I don't know, it's an interesting one. I can't help but feel maybe the moment got to him, but you don't know the behind the scenes, because even though he made the weight, he was 169, I think it was. But
yeah. Actually, a couple of us flew out to that fight in Dallas.
Of course. This is it. Every time I mention the UFC event, there's a good chance you've been there.
Yeah, there was this is crazy what I'm about to say as well. So, I literally, and this is no lie, I've been to most of Darren Till's fights, so when he was fighting for the title, I was like, there's no way I can't go. I have to be there. Like, I've watched all his other fights, and now he's fighting for the title. I've got to go. And I literally couldn't, get any time off work for it, either side. So I literally, only had the weekend. So I literally flew on, at 5 o'clock in the... it was 5 o'clock 5 p.m. on Friday. I flew from Heathrow, got a connecting flight to Dallas, had a stopover in New York, got to Dallas really early morning, Saturday morning, chilled out, met everyone, went to the fights, and then literally like at 5 a.m. on Sunday American time, I flew back, got back to England on Sunday about 10 p.m. Sunday. So I was in Dallas for like just over 20 hours. Literally watched the fights and then went.
That must have been so exhausting. You must have been exhausted.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah,
What an experience though. I
yeah.
bet you're so glad you still made all that effort as well.
Yeah. There's like, regardless of the result, the card actually was really good as well. There was some great fights on that card, So even though he didn't win, and that, it was still great.
So here's a couple of questions for you, just to sort of don't worry about too much about how you answer them. What is your favourite fight show you've been to? It's not necessarily the fights themselves, but the experience.
No, there's loads.
First that comes to mind.
Do you know what I'm gonna say? UFC 199. Just because of everything around, like, so Bisping fought Rockhold for the title on that one.
Was that the first or second time?
Yeah, second time. It was the rematch. It was UFC 199. So
that would have been amazing.
Yeah, so Rockhold was due to fight Weidman, but it might have been like 2 weeks' notice. Weidman had to pull out. Bisping was filming Triple X, and he got the call. So he was like filming this movie and training at the same time. But so what happened is, this happened, but like literally in like a few days. So this happened, and literally like the week before, I was traveling to America with work. We went to Arizona for 3 months, and so we were traveling to work. So I traveled to work, and I was there for about a week. So a week and a bit, and then I went out a bit early to everyone else just to get stuff set up, and then most of the other people came over, and we had all our aircraft there, and there was a little bit of work going on, but it came to like the Friday night, and this fight was happening on the Saturday, and I just found out like about 7:00 Friday night that we'd had Saturday off and Sunday off, that we weren't required for the weekend because we got everything we needed to get sorted. So me and my mate Jack, he's a massive like MMA fan. We were like, right, should we get tickets then? So we literally bought tickets on Friday night for UFC 199. We hired a car. We drove from Arizona to LA, which is about 4.5 hours. Drove on the Saturday morning, got a hotel and everything. Then so we went to the arena. It was sold out. So we'd literally must have snapped up like the last tickets on Friday, like some of the last tickets on the Friday night. It was completely sold out. We were there, like the whole card was great. And then obviously Bisping did what he needed to do and won, and it was just unreal. And then afterwards, we couldn't get an Uber. Like, it was just so rammed, so we just stayed behind in that. And then I said to Jack, the press conference is finished now, so they'll all be coming out. So we went round, and there was Bisping with the belt, and he seen our England flag, so he came over and we chatted to him for about 5 minutes.
How do I even begin to dissect that? Like, for anyone who hasn't seen that fight and the emotion, if you see like in the cage afterwards, like him with his family, it's just, it gives you chills. It's so like heartfelt, because for those who aren't aware about Michael Bisping and the journey he's been on, all the ups and downs, all this kind of stuff, all the X, Y, and Z, this was truly for everyone who's ever like felt like an underdog. It was pure like American dream kind of thing. And then for you to crazy. I chat to him at that point as well. It must have been electric just being in that room.
Yeah, he had his family there. He had a beer and that, and he was still going on about Rockhold to us. But yeah, it was just amazing, just because of everything. It's just the way it came about, because obviously on the Friday I didn't know I was going, and the Friday night came, we had tickets and we went, and just everything that happened, it was crazy. But honestly, there's so many cards and so many experiences that I could tell you were just as good as that. But that's just one that came to my mind.
Well, I'm pretty comfy. What's the next one?
So, 205's pretty good because of all the just everything it was about. It was the first card in New York. Obviously, McGregor going for champ. That was pretty cool. And so I actually travelled out to New York on my own. But I met up with my good friends, Derek and Louise. They were out there for the UFC as well, but they were also tying it in with their wedding anniversary. So we'd actually, I think it was an Amanda Nunes meet and greet that we tried to, that we were going to.
We need to get like a bell or something every time you drop in a UFC fight.
But it was cancelled, but we didn't know. So we went to this like Metro PCS store in well out of New York, got like the subway there, and it was cancelled. So like, we'll head back. Because the weigh-ins were on this day for 205, so it's like we'll head back towards the area. We got lost anyway, and then no word of a lie, me and Derek are like looking on the map trying to figure out where we're going, and Louise is like, "Oh, there's Nick and Nate Diaz." We're like, yeah, and no word of a lie, Nick and Nate Diaz were just like stood with a friend on like a street corner. So I went over, got pictures with them, and Derek does triathlon. So he started speaking to Nick about triathlons and that. And we were there for like 5 minutes. And me and Louise got chatting to their friend they were with called, I think his name was Frank. And he was just like, "Oh, what are you guys up to?" We're like, "Oh, we're going to the weigh-ins and that." And Nick and Nate Diaz were actually like hosting like a meet and greet party kind of thing at a bar. But if I remember rightly, it was like $200 a ticket or something stupid. It was like crazy money. And they were like, "Oh, you coming to this after?" And we were like, "Oh, no, it's too much." And he said, "Well, here's my number. Give me a call when you're at the door and I'll get you in." So we thought, it might work out. He might just be, just lying or saying he can, or he just might not reply. So we went to the weigh-ins and we turned up to this place where they were having this like party. And we texted Frank and he came, got us straight in. This bouncer slapped a load of wristbands off us. And we're in like this Nick and Nate Diaz like meet and greet party with a free bar, free food. The light is crazy.
I don't even know where to begin with these things.
And they had Rockhold was there, Jake Shields. Yeah. But Rockhold wasn't too impressed with me because I just told him I was a Bisping fan. Because this was obviously this is after. Yeah, he just. Do you know what he said to me? I said to him, "I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Bisping fan." He said, "Well, I feel bad for you." I just walked out. No, it was all funny, like.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's one of those things, but still, meeting all these people, it's just so surreal. Like, I don't even know where to begin with these things. This is why I knew it'd be so good having you on, having these stories, these experiences.
Yeah, it's just crazy experiences. Like, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Like,
we'll tell you what, we'll leave everyone hanging for the time being. Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Matt Bailey _1991. I'm on Twitter as well, Matt Bailey 1991. We haven't talked about it, but so me and my friend Dave, like we have like a little MMA page on Instagram, MMA Bible. So check that out as well.
Links to all those will be in the description. And this episode is sponsored by Mauler MMA. Use code FCMMA20 at checkout for 20% on all Mauler apparel and gloves.